Hello, you are watching another episode of Ruthless Politics. You are with Treez and
Kid Chronic,
my co-host here. So as you can see, we're doing another Zoom meeting. We like this setup, and it's been working as we are in a contactless world. So
I love shooting from home, man. I've been practicing for this my whole entire life.
Yeah, it looks good. You got the nice artwork behind you.
And you like my background?
Set up. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And Ben Franklin, one of the founding fathers, with his COVID gas mask on.
How about that for something telling the future that he has it on there? And you see
I
this
have
fella
my
right
finger
here,
on
right?
the pulse, buddy.
Yeah, and so does that. So does Benny over there. Quick rundown. We'll put the episode number in the information there. We're gonna go over 2020 election. We're gonna go over Biden, more gaffes, more blunders, his VP pick. We got to see. Yeah, I mean it's tough. It's tough for Biden out there. We'll talk coronavirus. We got some interesting pardons. Well, not pardons, I shouldn't say, but a couple of fellas.
Yeah, you wish they were as legal as pardons, dude. They're just letting people out the back door of prison now.
They're just letting people out.
Blatant corruption.
And we can also talk about some things that are not necessarily politics related if we have time, as we like to do, things that are topical and that are people are talking about. So why don't we just jump in right away? The main thing here, we're not that far from November. So, coronavirus aside, people are forgetting we had an election coming up in November. And I'll let you kind of kick off what your thoughts are. Let's first talk about Joe Biden. How do you feel about this candidate now that he's obviously the man? Everybody's out. We're talking VP. What's your opinion? This is your guy. You guys got to run. What's your story?
I'm not excited, my friend. I was so excited about this primary because we had exciting people in it. We had Elizabeth Warren. We had Bernie Sanders. We had Pete Buttigieg. We had Andrew Yang. I mean, there was a wealth of exciting and talented candidates that the Democrats could run for president. And somehow this guy ran it from front to back in the lead. And when it felt like he was going to fall apart at multiple times, he held it together. And in the end, nobody took him out, and they all kind of fell into place, I think, because they all want to beat Trump was the big grand design here. I don't know who behind the scenes orchestrated this Democratic plan and put this all together, whether it was Biden's camp, whether Obama got involved. I'm not sure who organized this for the Democrats, but I think it was a huge mistake. I think that Joe Biden is the only person that was in the Democratic primary that could lose a debate to Donald Trump. I think we found the only person that could actually lose. I think Donald Trump handpicked him because they knew they could beat him. There's so much history on this guy. It's a nightmare for us. He was involved with the Anita Hill thing. There's a rape allegation. On top of that, he was in government so long that he's just like a symbol of kind of the old institution. And there's not much good I can say about Joe Biden. On top of that, he doesn't seem to know what's going on. I mean, at any given time, he can have a huge gap. He's not a great speaker. And on top of that, he seems genuinely confused. If he was your relative, you'd be worried about him. You'd be like, wow, we got to keep an eye on Grandpa. Don't let him drive the car. Don't give him the car keys. We got to keep an eye on Gramps these days,
Yeah, this is a guy we may not want to drive.
Exactly.
You just hit a very interesting point. This is a guy we're worried about with keys. We're going to give him keys to the country.
Yeah, but you're going to give him the keys to the country. And I'll tell you what, I think these other Democratic candidates would have mopped the floor with Trump. Imagine Trump having to debate Pete Buttigieg, a gay soldier who's also kind of religious. He would have slayed Trump. Even a Warren would have made him look silly. A Bernie would have just gone right after him. And then you end up with Biden. Biden's going to look ridiculous out there. He's going to make Trump look young and vibrant, and he's going to make Trump look smart, if that was even possible. It's terrible. It's a terrible decision to run this guy.
I think what happened was, now, interestingly enough, Biden pretty much ran from post to post. He stayed in first place.
That's unheard of.
It's very unheard of, by the way. You're right. They flirted, the media flirted with other candidates. Everyone had their moment, but Biden held on. I think they really thought that this was the Obama luster that would be able to carry him in, because I'm not sure why you thought if you want a fresh candidate with fresh ideas, you're picking another, in terms of your party, another old white man, which is what they rail against. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. I think they thought that he's the only winnable candidate. If you remember, going back to previous things we've talked about on this podcast, Biden was always given that label. He's the only one that can beat Trump. He's the only one compared to these others. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily true. We're learning. And I don't think people counted on him making this many mistakes. And you're right. He's a career politician. I thought he was the kind of slime ball we all railed against. that we don't want a guy who's been
to plan too much into the future, to say that, this candidate can't win, that candidate can win. That's really just silly, because you don't know what's going to happen in a campaign, and there's so much it can happen. And so much of the campaign happens digitally now. How can we expect Joe Biden to put in place a digital army that's going to battle what Donald Trump already has in place with the help of like every foreign government like Saudi Arabia and Russia that he's in their back pocket?
Well,
I just don't see how Joe Biden is going to do it. They're going to mop the floor with Joe Biden online. There's going to be crazy memes, all these pictures of him with the little kids, all the creepy stuff. Oh my God. And then that's not even getting into the fact that the son was dating the wife, and then they forced the son to, the one son passed away, sad, no doubt. But then the other son starts dating that guy's wife, and then they just kind of broke up like they were
Hunter, the scumbag.
Before the presidency. One. So, I just think he's a target for every tabloid. He's a target for every meme. He's gonna be made to look ridiculous before this is over. Ridiculous.
Well, it's already happening. Trump has released a facts over fiction troll site that covers all of Biden's gaffes. They've already jumped on the gaffe that we can talk about right now. We're talking about Biden and some of these mistakes. So Biden goes on the Breakfast Club, Charlamagne the God, the absolute hip-hop intellectual that some people anointed this man. I don't know how he got that.
I like him. I'm a fan of Charlamagne.
Yeah, he's smarter than the average bear. I'll give him that. But he seems like
he's talented.
He's elitist, and he's very condescending, and maybe I am too. So maybe I don't like that because I'm seeing myself in him. But I find that I didn't watch the interview. I only watched that clip. And I think that Biden messed up. So basically what Biden said was, in so many words, hey, if you don't vote for me, if you're black, unsaid, if you're black and you don't vote for me, well, you ain't black. And basically meaning the Democrats. If you don't vote Democrat, here's the news. Most black folks think that way. If you stray from the party, you're looked at as, what the fuck are you doing? Like, if you're black and you vote for Trump, you are ostracized. You're made to feel like an idiot, whatever. So what Biden said really mirrored a lot of people's attitude. He just had no business saying it. It's also condescending, and I'll let you give your comment. It's condescending to black Republicans or black folks that don't vote Democrat. So it's like, well, what do you think of me? How is this white man telling me I'm not black when I don't vote that way, or you don't have my vote locked down?
Man, when the African-American vote did not turn out for Hillary Clinton and she lost, it scared the Democratic Party. So now there's a whole kind of sentiment that without the African-American vote, a Democrat can't win. And so they very much want to make sure that the African-American vote turns out. And I don't know if Joe Biden will do it, but I think that there's a chance that he may do it. But I don't feel that connection. I personally, and this maybe, what do I know about the African-American vote? I'm a white guy, but I think that they really like to turn out for black candidates and inspire them. They want to vote for their own, which I get. And if there was an Italian candidate, like, I like Cuomo, he's Italian. Yeah. So I get that.
You're more likely, right?
Yeah, I get that. So I understand Biden wanting to put in a vice president that's African-American, but I don't think that cuts it. I don't think people come out to vote for the vice president. And I almost think it comes off as pandering a little bit.
Well, and I agree. First of all, no Trump
He should offer them something else that they really want. Some big policy initiative.
Yeah, how about some results? How about fixing inner cities that have not been fixed in 50 years? When Trump goes after Baltimore, fucking Baltimore should be ashamed of itself. I mean, you've had ample time to get better. You keep getting worse. Philadelphia keeps getting worse. Areas keep getting worse. San Francisco, urban areas keep getting worse. They're all under Democratic leadership. There's been ample time to fix this. Now, it could be an America problem. Maybe we just have a problem with big cities in general that no matter who the leadership is, and we can get into that too with a lot of the DeSantis Cuomo comparisons being drawn now. Florida versus New York has been a hot topic. But going back to Biden, when we talk about the black vote, first of all, the Democrats are very silly to think that you would get the same black voter turnout that you got from Obama that you would for Hillary Clinton. Clearly, that's not going to happen. They came out for their guy. Record numbers absolutely
first
make
black
sense.
President. You're never going to get that again. That's a one-time deal.
So they're not going to come out for Hillary that way because she's also not a black candidate. That's number one. What you did have with Hillary is a lot of women came out and voted more than before and were empowered to vote for her. So it worked for a different group. You had a huge turnout of women. Hillary definitely lost a lot of black vote that I can't believe they counted on. I don't know why you went against the biggest number ever and thought that you could make that the norm. It's not the norm. It was an aberration for the black candidate. Yeah. Now, what Trump is doing is he's making inroads in the black community, which is hurting because he's also the Republican that's garnered the largest number of black votes his last go around. I think it was 9%, which is exorbitantly high for a Republican. They're thinking he may get 14% this go around.
Maybe. They have a lot of reason to not like Trump, too. And Trump has turned off a lot of different voter blocks. So I think it's a crapshoot who turns out and votes for Trump this time. You don't know.
Yes.
He could win in a landslide. I think that he'll win if it's Joe Biden. I think he'll beat Joe Biden.
I don't think the black vote's going to make a difference.
Joe Biden
Trump
doesn't know what the hell's going on. He's room he's in. So he should be able to beat Joe Biden. But who comes out to vote for him would determine whether or not it's a landslide. If he loses to Joe Biden, that would be fascinating. Ooh, let's back that up. Let's say this. Joe Biden wins the election. He brings in a vice president that's African-American so that he can get the black vote to win. He uses like Stacey Abrams because she can deliver like Georgia or something like that, you know. He brings in her. He ends up winning the presidency. He drops dead because we know he's on his last goddamn leg. And now Stacey Abrams is president of the United States. Could you imagine? Republicans would jump off. They'd be jumping out of windows.
I absolutely can't imagine. Well, she's complete. This is not a very. She shouldn't even be the front runner for the vice presidential ticket. There's actually even other black women candidates. I mean, in all respect, Kamala Harris is better suited for that job than Stacey Abrams.
Kamala Harris, for whatever reason, is just not a polished enough speaker. She's a good speaker, but she's not a great speaker. To be president,
funny that you say that.
You've got to be a great communicator. Even though
that's her weak spot.
Speaker, he's a great communicator, so it works. You know.
Well, and what's funny is I think the Biden campaign even used the word clunky. You're right. She is not eloquent. Trump's not exactly eloquent. It didn't seem to hurt him. But
it works what Trump does. He's a New Yorker, and New Yorkers are appealing. People love nicknaming, braggadocious. And you know what else I've realized, too, about him over the years? You have to understand that never admitting you do anything wrong. Democrats are big on apologizing, but it really hurts you because then it gets stuck to you like glue. When you never really admit you do anything wrong, it has a much slower amount of time that thing can hurt you, you know? And so his resiliency of admitting any guilt on anything has paid huge dividends in politics because they don't have a reel that they can run and say, see, there's Trump apologizing for that. We told you. You know, he doesn't even have it. That reel does not exist.
Yes, no, he's not an apologist. You're right.
No,
some people believe in deny. You hear that with cheating. If your wife ever catches you, wasn't it Chris Rock? Where she literally sees the woman in bed.
You know, if you're explaining, you're losing your life. Just go forward. We're the best. We're the biggest. We did it right. We're amazing. No, they're wrong. We're right. You know, you can get into that mantra, and it really, really works, dude. It works.
Well, you mentioned the apologizing, and not only would you see apologizing in that regard, you've seen candidates just apologizing for their whiteness. Beto O'Rourke would apologize, it seemed, every week on the campaign trail. He was apologizing for something that he was or did or whatever. So you're right.
Yeah, it's not good. You can't get into that.
It's not a good look.
Democrats play to lose with that. And then that becomes a real. They can beat you up on it. They can bring it up whenever they want. And it's no good, man. Trump, it's annoying for us Democrats because it seems disingenuous when he does that. He doesn't take responsibility for stuff. But as a political strategy, it's very effective.
Yeah, it hasn't hurt him. I can tell you that. Biden's already had to apologize for this situation, so it's already coming home to roost in some way.
They're going to make Biden apologize for everything before this is over. He's going to become totally embarrassed. He's going to have gaffe after gaffe. His debates are going to be – I don't even know what his debates are going to be like. It's going to be like Weekend at Bernie's, you know. It's just going to be terrible. This is horrible. I saw that Bernie Sanders endorsed Biden. That was great. But are Bernie Sanders voters really all going to go right over to Biden? I don't know that they will because Biden is a lot like Trump. So for that millennial Bernie Sanders voter, are they going to go Green Party or just not show up or something, man? I don't know, you know. So, man, Biden's got a tough run ahead of him. He's got
You hit on a really interesting point. Is the Bernie voters, we're not hearing enough. They've been totally discounted.
Bernie made it deep again. So there's a big block of Bernie voters out there, right? Where does the Bernie voter, who's like a young guy, he's excited for Bernie, he's excited for that change, where does he go in a Trump-Biden election? I think he stays home.
Well, listen, this is bigger than the black vote for Biden. This is a bigger number than the black vote. Where do the Bernie bros go? Are they staying home? Are they never Bidens? Are they never Trumpers? Are they jumping ship to Trump where they're like, hey, you know, Bernie's fringe?
You lose faith in a system where you follow a candidate who's got a lot of steam all the way up to the thing, and then you end up with two old white guys. And you're like, well, what the fuck, dude? So especially any Bernie voter that's maybe a minority or like just a college student that kind of has to go out of their way to vote because they're having so much fun at school. You know, well, that may not happen this time with COVID, but you know what I mean? Anybody that's on the fringe of whether or not they're going to vote, this is kind of not exciting election now. Rolling these two dum-dums out, like there's not a lot to be excited about. You know what's funny? What do you think about this? Let me reverse this one on you. So Trump doesn't like the fact that everybody can vote from home. But they had an election recently and the Republicans smoked the guy when everybody could vote for home. I think Trump voters are more likely to mail in their vote for home than Democrats are. So I think Trump would benefit from a mail-in election.
I think that's possible. You make a good point. I think the problem with mail-in election stuff is the possibility of fraud. It opens up a lot of chances.
We know the Social Security, the people, you match it up. Dude, you can mail in your taxes, but we can't vote this way? Come on.
Yeah. Well, no, that is a very good point. What is your opinion of these vice? I mean, who do you think is the leader of these vice presidential candidates? Who would you like to see? And then who do you think is actually leading in this? Is it Klobuchar? Is Kamala Harris still, a viable candidate? Is it Stacey Abrams? They're bringing up Val Demings, who's another black woman candidate with actual real experience.
I don't think that an African-American woman is going to be enough to get Biden over the edge. I think they should just pick the best orator that they could find. I would almost like a Pete Buttigieg, to be honest with you. And I know that no one else is going to say that because I want someone that can speak really well so that we can put that person on camera instead of Biden. So Kamala, to me, doesn't help. If we put two people that are not great speakers up there, that's not good. Klobuchar could speak pretty well. I could go with the Klobuchar up there maybe, but I don't know if she can pull the vote. So I don't really know who the best vice president is for the shitty ticket that we already have because the headliner of the ticket sucks, dude. It's like when the headliners U2 and they're played out and they suck and the band that's going to lead out for them is way better now, but they would never get to actually have the head spot. This is a tough one that the Democrats are in. I don't know how we're going to fix it unless Biden drops dead and we roll Andrew Cuomo in there. Okay, how do you have a party that has Andrew Cuomo in it and somehow you run Biden for president? We couldn't roll Cuomo out of New York. Look at him during this pandemic. Look at all the positivity about him. This man is an all-star right now. His star is shooting across the sky, and we can't run him for president? We have to run this fucking old fossil? Are you kidding me?
Well, Cuomo, you have a good shot at him running in the next 4 years, I think. It's not happening now.
What happens by then?
We had no interest.
Poison him in 4 years, and he'll be dead. Who knows?
The fact that he's a superstar is even scary. I always felt that New York, this state needs an investigation. And actually, on a side note, there are rumblings of a federal investigation in how New York handled their situation. Why was New York so much worse? Okay, yes, we all live on top of each other.
Don't mean a goddamn thing as long as AG Barr is in charge of the federal investigation.
No, it means a lot if AG Barr is in charge. It means so be worried.
Not even funny. It's a picture of
be worried. Yeah, listen.
He investigates people, but he never takes it too far. He's like, well, I don't expect anything to come from the Obama-Biden investigation. Well, then what the fuck are you doing it for, dude?
Yeah, that was really disheartening to hear him say that. It was what are you fucking doing?
It's full of shit. He's
first of all, why would you even say that?
Trump
How about we
to investigate him for a news line? I investigated him. No big deal. Nothing.
How about we keep them in a little bit of fear for a little bit of time, for Christ's sakes? Going back to the vice presidential candidates, just to give a quick rundown, they're all women. So as we know that Joe Biden, God forbid he put a male candidate. So what is this going to be? A campaign of Biden going around with this woman, smelling her hair, canoodling with her, holding her hand? Is that how we're determining whose hair smells the best? Because that'll be interesting. So you have Tammy Duckworth, Illinois senator. She's a long shot. No. Stacey Abrams, very short hair. He'd have to get very, very close to get that. Val Demings, another actually out of Florida. Black woman candidate. Gretchen Whitmer, the Gestapo from Michigan, was really high on this list. The governor of Michigan. I don't know. I don't see her.
I like governors. Really.
You prefer governors to get in there?
Governors are used to leading. It's a similar job to the presidency. On a smaller scale. It's a good way to come in.
Yeah, governors are more, for people that are confused, governors seem to be more in tune with their state, while senators are more in tune with Washington. So a lot of people get confused.
Senators aren't solving problems all day, like how to fund a hospital and things like that. But governors are doing it,
Senators are trying to make determinations for the country, how they can all come together in that group of 100 and hammer things out. But they're never state first. That's why a lot of them, they never live in their state. You notice they always stay in Washington, whereas governors live in their state. And a lot of people get very confused in that. Senators in the pecking order are actually higher politically than governors are, because it's more of a springboard to a higher position.
Senator is so powerful because there's a limited amount. There's only 2 per state. Exactly. There's a long term. You're in the Senate for a long time. And your name gets known very well because there's only 2 in your state. So people really know who the senator is. And you get a lot of name recognition. It's easy to stay in office.
There's something more statesy about being a governor and something more federal about being a senator.
And senator goes back all the way to Roman times, so people really are familiar with like the Senate is like, very important.
And listen, and proof of how, by the way, on a side note, if you can land either of those positions, you're fucking in pig shit. Rick Scott made sure he's done both. You know what I mean? Yeah. There are people that make sure like, well, I was already governor. My term ran out of that. I'm going to run for Senate and vice versa. And we saw that with Rick Scott.
That shows you too how important Senate is. That Rick Scott would come out of a career of being governor for a while, and he could have probably retired. He's a rich man, and he wanted that Senate seat because that Senate seat is powerful, especially from Florida. That's a big
and Florida's been able to put, and keep two Republicans in the Senate election, in a swing state.
A national treasure because who was the guy that was in that seat? Bill
Nelson.
Bill Nelson. Many U.S. astronaut, man. He was an astronaut. So Rick Scott came in and beat an astronaut for his seat.
He did. He beat a stalwart in Florida politics, which was.
And
I
was saying the whole time, I was like, we need to get some more funding down here. He's going to win. So I was seeing his ads 2, 3 to 1. And I knew that we were going to lose that seat, man. And I was shouting on Twitter. Nobody was listening,
Well, you know what it is Bill Nelson I think was a little out of touch with people. They said that he didn't attend Senate very often. By the way, Marco Rubio also.
I think he's like well into his 80s probably, right?
He's a very old man.
Yeah.
Marco Rubio has terrible Senate attendance. This is actually
Rubio's excuse. He's like the youngest guy in the Senate. He should be everyone.
And listen, and Trump's about to give him he's about to take over a Senate Intelligence Committee. He's about to get a big boost in one of his.
Yeah, I think that landed in his lap, though. Didn't he like fall into that?
Yes, I think someone's gone and it's about to fall in his lap. So he's about to chair something of importance. I can't remember the exact one. By the way, on a side note, talking about the split of candidates, you owe it to yourself. The Senate just had a vote on allowing the FBI to search your internet history, your Google searches, and all that without warrant. And it was an extension of the Patriot Act in some way. And you can look this all up. It was very fascinating. It was completely bipartisan. It passed by basically one vote. And it was Democrats and Republicans were flipped on each side. So it was really fascinating to see this was not a party lines vote. This was who wants to give the FBI more power and who wants to. So obviously Rand Paul and Ted Cruz voted no. They voted nay against this. But some of the yays were like Dianne Feinstein said yes. There was a split between Rubio and Rick Scott. Rick Scott did not want to give the FBI the right. Marco Rubio granted them the right. But what makes this whole thing interesting is that it lost by one vote. So the FBI, by the way, won the right to now look through all your shit. Surprise. But the one candidate that abstained from the vote, there were 4 that didn't show. I think 3 or 4. Bernie Sanders no-showed the vote. And if Bernie Sanders really cared about people, and he certainly seems a little anti-government or whatever, or pro-government, and that he wants to expand so much of it, he could have voted this down, and he no-showed the vote, and it passed. And it's just a little more of our freedoms eroded of what police, FBI, whoever, looks into your shit, makes determinations about you, whatever, whether you're doing good, you're doing bad. You may not think you're doing bad, but if they can go into your porn history and humiliate you because you jerk off to fat women in India, you didn't do anything bad, but there's a way to humiliate you.
Well, yeah, it gives them a lot of control. Information is power. We've always known that. And so the more information you give them, the more ways they'll be able to use it. And it sucks because we rely on the fact that these elected officials will manage this correctly. And a lot of them don't understand even what they're voting on half the time. Other ones, like you say, dodgy.
How crazy is that?
And the reality is that all of these laws are being written right now, and we're not going to know the full effect of them until later on. And you better hope that the people that we elect are honest, because what we can see now is sometimes you get people in office that aren't that honest. And if they have all this information about you, and it's not that honest of a government, you're going to be in a hell of a lot of you have to imagine all the things that they can do with it. It's not just about stalking you. They can use it to coerce you to do things if they wanted to,
Blackmail.
Yeah, exactly. They can find out all sorts of corporate secrets and other business dealings and stuff. I mean, it's really, it's an unhealthy practice to let them in this deep to our personal lives. And it just
sucks. This is how it all
the internet's a powerful tool we need.
I think people don't understand when it's big money and power positions at play, whether they're corporate or government or politics or Hollywood, when it's big money, blackmail wins, man. All rules are off the board. All's fair in love and war. This is war. You can watch House of Cards on Netflix that prove this. They will kill you. They will blackmail you. They'll kiddie porn you. This is what the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing was about. His whole thing was blackmail. Where's all the blackmail material? Interestingly enough, we don't know. It's never been talked about.
But the FBI did raid his island.
But they got it.
That goes into the big pile of information that they have.
Got exactly. File it away in the data banks.
For the most part, though, I feel confident in the government to handle most of this. It seems like they don't abuse it too bad. It really doesn't. I mean, people would say that Michael Flynn maybe was abused, but as a Democrat, I don't believe that. I think he was actually guilty, and that's just an excuse they're using to let him out. But I think the government handles
guilty
this pretty well
because he was scared. And by the way, that's I would say the majority of our prisons are full of people that took guilty pleas. Instead of doing 20 years, you're going to do 7. Well, then of course you're going to.
He wasn't looking at that much time.
No, he wasn't. But he's the kind of guy that doesn't want to do any time.
On Putin's lap, and like he was getting money from the Russians long before this.
This is a 3-star general that was very. He was insulting to Obama. He was insulting to Obama's strategies in the Middle East. And I feel that he rubbed Obama wrong. And yeah, that he maybe gave them a little ammunition with any of his meetings overseas or whatnot, which I thought all these people do. I got to be honest with you. Again, Joe Biden is in intimate talks with the Ukraine, whether you want to believe Hunter's situation or not. He still was in talks. He's still a part of all of it. You know,
yeah, I think that the Biden kid getting money from Ukraine obviously is distasteful. Okay, but here's some Michael Flynn stuff. Let's go. He pled guilty on December 2017. He lied to the FBI. So that's a pretty big thing for a general to do, right? If he's not doing anything wrong, to lie to the FBI.
Right.
He basically called the ambassador, who was also like the spy master back in the day. You know, that big Russian ambassador Kislyak. He called him and basically told Russia to like hold down, wait for Trump to get into office, and he would fix the sanctions, yada yada yada, not to deal with the Obama administration. So the Obama administration was very upset because they didn't want a new administration that's not coming in yet, like backdoor dealing, and so it's also illegal. The call was picked up in routine FBI surveillance, and then he was asked about it in the FBI. That's how they got him. And so I guess that's what they're saying is entrapment kind of, but that seems like normal FBI stuff to me. Barr insisted, AG Barr, right, our not so honest attorney general, he insisted that there be a review of the prosecution. And then he put in U.S. Attorney Jeff Jensen to review the case, and he recommended that the case be dropped. The motion said it was frail and shifting justifications and irregular procedures. But then the judges stepped in, and the judges concerned it's cronyism and is holding, I guess, a new court date for they can go over this and decide if the plea was acceptable or not. So you have to ask yourself, man, it kind of seems interesting to me that all of a sudden there's an election coming up, right? General Flynn gets out. Then you have Michael Cohen is released from jail, Trump's old lawyer. And then you have Paul Manafort that's released from jail. And then you also, is there another one or is that it?
That's it right now.
Oh, but our other one, the other one that I want to know about is our Roger Stone. That's the one we're waiting for. He's the one that
Roger Stone is not in jail yet. And he got a month kind of a reprieve while they go over, you know, what they're going to do about that with him.
Yeah, he got his postponed. He would have been better off to be in already because then he'd be doing home time like the rest of these guys.
Well, yeah.
Think about that.
He's hoping to not go at all. I think Roger Stone's is the scariest one because he's facing the most time. I think he's even facing more than Manafort got, and Michael Cohen wasn't even getting as much as Manafort got. I don't know how much Trump had to say in any of this. It doesn't seem like he's getting a lot of questions about it. They obviously were released due to coronavirus fears. That's what is being reported in the media.
Well, Paul Manafort, right? He was Trump's campaign manager, and he has to serve the remainder of his sentence on house arrest. He was released from FCI Loretto in central Pennsylvania, and he is serving 7-year prison sentence. Should have been in jail till 2024. His attorneys wrote a letter to the Bureau of Prisons, and they got him out under AG Barr's orders, and Manafort served 30% of his term. That's it.
I think Cohen even did even less.
Cohen is right here. The Bureau of Prisons refused to comment on Cohen. But there was, I guess, in Manafort's prison, there was no cases. In Cohen's prison, there was at least 12 cases of corona.
So we're living in a country where, first of all, these guys are getting out because there are bigger criminals even being let out. So let's put this in perspective here. Forget politics. Forget who you like, who you dislike. They are letting out violent felons. They're letting out child predators, definitely letting out low-level drug criminals. They decided that they felt that these guys are going to get coronavirus or spread it in the jail. Why all of a sudden we care about their health, I have no fucking idea. But all of a sudden we care about prisoners' health. Imagine that. We live in an obese country full of opioid abuse, alcohol abuse, cigarette abuse, marijuana's legal, addictions across the board, addictions everywhere, and all of a sudden we're worried about the health of the fucking prison inmates. So go figure that out.
I thought it used to be that we didn't let prisoners out for any goddamn reason. We just did it.
It's very odd.
So the majority of your term, or unless you're in Cali where they had overcrowding and you could kind of get out early. But I've never seen it like this. And I know that politicians always get an easy hand too. They always get out really easy. But I've never seen it where they're just like opening the doors and letting people out. And those prisons, a lot of them are private and they want their money. So I'm sure they're not really
they're not happy. Yeah,
but I know that our government also knew that we had way too many people in prison. So I wonder if it's a way to reset the deck so that
there's a lot of low-level people. Like again, should marijuana offenders be crowding jails? Maybe not. Should if you didn't pay child support for 2 years, should you do a year in jail for that? So there's some real low-level offenders. Again,
you think it boosts the economy, releasing all these people? Like
I have no idea what they're doing.
For Trump, in a way, like everyone's kind of stocked up right now. It's like a race car. You're pulling back the economy. You're pulling it back. You're pulling it back. Right. As soon as this thing all lifts and everybody can travel again, and everything, and there's all these people that have been released from jail, and everybody's just like, I mean, the economy could skyrocket.
Well, I think the economy is going to skyrocket anyways because before this, it was going very well. So there's no reason that if we're going to put this whole thing back together again and he does it in the same pattern and the same method, we should be able to do this. They're desperately hoping not. They're already talking about a second wave. We're not even done with the first one. We're not even officially in a summer, and they're discussing a second wave. How you can predict that, I have no idea. But I'm a skeptic now with a lot of this.
It's getting better and better. Like they opened up, they said it was going to get so much worse, and it seems like cases are going up in some areas, but a lot of it's going down. And so this is
keep in mind why cases go up. They turn the tests in not every day. So again, these numbers are manipulated and also how they're being acquired. So if they don't turn the test figures in for 3 days, and then here they are. We turned in 1,500 tests. 300 of them came back positive, and it's like boom, there's a spurt. No, you held on to tests for 5 fucking days and turned them all in. That's how that's happening. I always thought it was about the deaths and then deaths per 100,000, of which Florida, the state that you and I are lucky and blessed to even be in, we had under 10 COVID deaths per 100,000, which is absolutely remarkable. New York had 129 per 100,000. So let that sink in. Florida had 8. California had 9. Texas had 7. It could have been done somehow, some way. You're a New Yorker. I'm a New Yorker through blood, my whole family line. I'm embarrassed for New York. The greatest state, arguably, maybe next to California. Now Florida challenging that. Texas maybe a little bit. So you got the 4 big states. But for one of them to fail in this corona so miserably, and then for all those old people to die when Cuomo said, I'm following CDC guidelines, and he took all of those COVID positive seniors, stuck them back in the senior homes. That's on record. It's not a conspiracy theory. He said he was going by guidelines. But you know what? Your state didn't elect the CDC.
New York
they elected
so many
you.
Cases because everyone during that period flew in from China into New York, and they dumped it. Something like
not helping.
Like 3 million passengers got dumped from China to New York before they even realized what was going on. And in the beginning, remember, your boy Trump in the beginning was downplaying this. So that slowed down the response a lot.
He did.
He said, I think at one point he said, we only have 5 cases. Then at another point he said, on the Geraldo show, he goes, we only have 12 cases. Then he said we have 15 people, and it's going to be close to none soon. And then he said, just stay calm. Our senators are on it. We're going to take care of it. And then he said, and then it turned out to be 1.4 million confirmed cases, right when he had said that there was basically none. So,
I don't know about that. 1.4 in the world. Keep in mind. Listen, this is the sad fact of our government. This is even bigger than Trump. This is bigger than Biden.
He even declared Trump recently that he prevailed.
that what happened?
That he prevailed in the COVID thing. He declared that he prevailed already.
Well, here's why he's saying that. You're talking about figures that when it was all said and done, they thought 2 million people were going to die. So, we're at 60,000, which is flu numbers.
I think you're 83,000 last I checked. You're over 60.
So 83,000. Yeah, so a really terrible, terrible flu season. Not a pandemic, a.k.a. plandemic. A term, by the way, plandemic being banned throughout all of social media and not even allowed to use the term. But here's what happened. Fauci on record, I wish we could pull up the video, don't have it prepared, but Fauci went on many news outlets at the beginning of this whole thing and on record said, no, we have nothing to worry about. This is a China problem. It was a China problem. China kept it a secret, didn't man it properly, hits the rest of the world.
We
Trump shut
called
down
the China lab. We were one of the first to say
we
that.
absolutely did.
We were one
and
of the
we
first to
know
say
it
that.
has ties to Wuhan. And by the way,
On the air.
media floated that at first and then quickly pulled back. They didn't want to be termed racist. Using the term Chinese food is considered racist to some people, let alone talking about the Chinese flu.
Well, people are
Wuhan
sensitive
flu.
about that stuff.
They're very
sports
sensitive,
team
right? You
mascots,
can't wear a
all of that
sombrero.
comes into play.
Right,
Yeah.
but we shouldn't be sensitive. It's not a nationality thing. It's just a spin the globe. What country or region did this come from? It happens to come from China, whether it was a bat, the lab. I don't think it's a bat. I think it's a lab. I think it's a bioweapon. I think there's a reason also why it affects black folks differently. There's talks about HIV.
It affects certain people, and they don't know why.
Yeah,
I have a friend
there's
that
talks
works
about
in
it
the
being in the
hospital.
testicles, sexually
He
transmitted.
was telling me that
very
some people
odd.
are very sick and get better, and some people that are very healthy die. So they don't really know what the deal is that makes you die from COVID and why other people just get better like that.
Tons of misinformation
sort of
surrounding
genetic component.
Yeah. Tons of misinformation surrounded by it. Misinformation about the mask, even to this day.
It makes it
Surgeon
very
General.
hard to know whether or not to go out.
It makes it distrustful of the government.
And so it's like, what do I do in South Florida? Do I, like, up by you, the beaches are open. Down here, the beaches don't open until after Memorial Day. Your beaches are going to be packed with people this weekend. You know,
yes, already were.
Yeah, are people going to get sick? Are they not going to get sick? Can you go? And
I don't think people are going to get sick. I don't
even know if the antibody test will protect you or not. Like, everything is gray.
Well, see, here's where me and you differ, and it seems like the country is also split on this, and it's almost along political lines, which is crazy. I don't believe the narrative of the fear of this. I don't believe as many people are dying of this. There was a report from a San Diego. He's not a doctor, but he was more a government official. And I wish I had his name. Again, this could be research. Just put in San Diego COVID. And of the 149 cases that they had deaths in San Diego County, he ruled that 8 of them were strictly COVID. The others were comorbidities being tied in. So they're writing off COVID on all the death reports. One of the reasons they're able to do that is the hospitals, and again, please research this. This is 100% fact. The hospitals get a check for every COVID patient death that they have to deal with because they look at it under strenuous circumstances. The hospitals are cashing in. They get $30,000 for every COVID death they have to handle.
I don't know if that's true. I think some of that may have been disproven. I was reading. We got to look into that.
Yeah, I mean, anybody should look into that.
Hospitals get paid more based on how people die.
No, normally they don't.
Or how they wrote it up.
In this case, it's a hazard pay.
A lot of hospital people are all over the internet right now, like calling out all sorts of things that the federal.
We're hearing both sides.
Wrong. Yeah,
let me tell you,
if
it was overrun,
I don't see any of them saying that they're writing things down the wrong way to get money.
Oh, I've come up with not for the money part. They're just being pushed into make it COVID. Documented COVID.
I'm sure there's some people that are getting misdiagnosed as COVID patients. There's no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, man, it's just frustrating to not know exactly what's going on with this thing.
Of course.
Some people are dying from this.
Oh, absolutely. But some people die from the flu. Like, that's never cared about the flu.
But the flu, if you're susceptible to die from the flu. We don't know what about COVID is.
There is some unknown.
So you don't know if you get COVID, it's going to match up with your genetic makeup and kill you, or if you're not even going to know you have it.
This is true, but it's still the flu sucks. This sucks. And I don't know one person in any sphere that I know that died from this or even has it. I challenge anybody.
I've heard of people dying from it. Friends of mine have said they've had relatives that have died from it.
Okay, so you have experienced through,
but not people I know firsthand either.
No one firsthand. Forget dying. Do you know anyone firsthand diagnosed with it?
People though, the news has started to cover it. And you'll see on the news, hey, this guy died, that guy died. Seems legit.
Oh yeah, no. I'm not saying that this doesn't exist at all. I think the numbers are a scare tactic. So one of the things that I use is the Jaws theory. I've talked about this before. Jaws was used it scared the shit out of everybody. If everyone remembers Jaws, a movie in the 70s, Mechanical Shark, filmed in New Jersey, and the area it was filmed in went bankrupt because people were so scared to go into the ocean. This is not a fucking joke. This is the God's honest truth. This is how reactionary we are as a society. They were so scared of Jaws, they stopped going to that city. It bankrupted all the companies along the beach and whatnot. And it was really a shame because this was fake. And it got so big that it actually spread down to Florida and other places where it didn't bankrupt them, but boy, it put a dent in a lot of their business, all because of a fake shark, but people bought the fear. It's the fear mongering.
Yeah.
And that could be scary. I think that's happening with this. Another point I want to make.
There's a lot of that. I mean, people are definitely freaked out. Nobody knows exactly what's going on. And that has
one other problem that people can research as well. I kept asking this at the beginning, and I never saw until I had it confirmed for me. I kept asking, I'd like to see what the influenza numbers are next to COVID. I want to see the flu numbers, the COVID numbers. Well, guess what? They're being put in the same category. There are no separate flu numbers. Go look them up. And anything that's being reported as just influenza is small. It's our lowest flu season like on record ever. Why is that? They're pushing it all into the COVID numbers.
It's not really flu season right now. It's spring.
No, I'm talking when but going back to when this all started, closer to wintertime.
I think that more of this story is going to come out over time. Right now, everyone's trying to keep people healthy, this and that. Now it seems to be clearing up. It's going to clear up, and there's going to be a lot of investigations into all this stuff, and we'll get some more answers as time goes on. If we don't get answers, then it's even shadier than you ever thought, probably. The one thing that's fascinating, though, about the COVID thing, just to bring it back to politics, is how it's going to affect this election. I'm not sure how everyone's supposed to vote with social distancing, all the stuff that's going to go on. I don't think anybody would feel safe with a home vote. And so that's going to be very fascinating to see if that has an effect on the election, if people are still wearing masks and scared to be around each other and you have to stand in line to vote. A lot of people may stay home.
That's a very good point. And I'm going to ask you if you can, because I don't want these dogs to bother. Can you hit pause for 1 second?
Let's just call this one a wrap. We'll continue this one in the next episode.
All right, let's do that. So this is perfect timing, folks. I got dogs going crazy. We don't want to bother. And Kid Chronic's got some things to do. We'll do another episode. We'll talk about Corona, more news and things coming up. Thank you for taking the time to listen. You're talking to Treez.
And Kid Chronic. Take it easy, y'all.
Ruthless Politics. Thanks for watching.